In the foreboding corridors of Texas death row, condemned men spit out a name with a mix of loathing and disgust. Richard Blue Tabler. Such a reputation among fellow prisoners condemned to death speaks volumes about his disregard for life and prison norms. He was a very strange individual, as well as being a serial killer. Something wasn't right with him, recalled John Moriarty, the former inspector general who investigated Tabler. You would not be more than 2 minutes talking to him, and you could tell that if this head was a leveling tool, it was a bubble off. Tabler exposed a shocking lapse in prison security. Shortly after he arrived at the maximum security Paluxy unit that contains death row, he used a smuggled cell phone to make threatening cell phone calls from inside death row to then Senator John Whitmire, the chairman of the powerful Criminal Justice Committee. Now Houston Mayor-elect Whitmire plans to tackle violent crime. I know your daughter's names, Tabler said in the first of a series of cell phone calls to Whitmire. I know how old they are. I know where they live. He then named the women, their ages, and addresses. The call scared the hell out of me, said Mr. Whitmire, and it should have. Tabler had been convicted of capital murder for the brutal slayings on Thanksgiving weekend in 2004 of 2 men and 2 teenage girls in Killeen, Texas. Tabler's journey to death row began after his release from a California prison in 2004. He quickly fell into drug dealing at Fort Hood, now named Fort Cavazos, the Army's largest military post. He befriended Timothy Payne, an 18-year-old private from Missouri who later participated in Tabler's murder plots. Dressed in an Army uniform, Tabler would flash a counterfeit military identification card at the main gate at 5 a.m. and spend the day peddling drugs to soldiers. I think he liked playing roles, said Tim Steglick, a former investigator for the Bell County Sheriff's Department who investigated the homicides. He used that military ruse. It's kind of a rush. Tabler and Payne frequented Teasers, a raucous topless bar near Fort Hood, but the manager banned Tabler for harassing dancers, stoking his rage. On Thanksgiving weekend, Tabler lured the manager and his friend to a 2 a.m. rendezvous in a remote parking lot, promising to sell stolen stereo equipment for $1,500. Tabler needed money to pay a drug dealer for his supply. It was just a ruse to rob the pair, and when they couldn't produce cash, Tabler shot both as they sat in the front seat of their car. Tabler pilfered through the car for the money and turned angry when he found nothing. He ordered Payne to get his video camera and start rolling tape. Tabler pulled the manager out of the car and squatted beside his body. Suddenly, a gurgling sound came from the wounded man's mouth, and he raised his hand. In an impromptu moment, Tabler looked into the camera and said, "Who's got the power now?" He squeezed off a round point blank into the groaning man's head, so close that a mist of blood splattered Tabler's gun and Payne's shirt. Early into his investigation, Steglick received a shocking revelation from the Killeen Police Department that Tabler was one of their drug informants and a possible suspect. When Tabler discovered that he was in the crosshairs, he decided to eliminate 2 teenage dancers at Teasers who had expressed their suspicions. Tabler and Payne lured the topless dancers, an 18-year-old woman, and a 16-year-old runaway, to a state park with the prospect of selling them cocaine for a trip to an Austin strip club. Instead, Tabler carried out a bone-chilling execution of the pair. In a twist, Tabler threatened to launch a deadly attack against the Bell County Sheriff's Department headquarters, where Tim Steglick was assigned. He truly wanted to talk to me, Steglick recalled. But once he was arrested and inside the interrogation room, Tabler squared off to match wits with Steglick. Steglick had artfully used psychology to extract a confession from the accomplice of notorious serial killer Kenneth McDuff. An elite U.S. Marshal who witnessed that interrogation was amazed by Steglick's calm and low-key approach. Tabler was no match for About 8 hours into the interview about the murder of Teaser's manager, Tabler put up a timeout sign. I was standing right next to him and violating his space. Tabler was getting nervous, and he said, "Time out, I shot him," recalled Steglick. So I reminded him of his rights again. He says, "No, I don't want a lawyer." and added, "I also had a list of 8 more people that I was going to kill." Departing for death row after his capital murder trial, Tabler shocked Steglick when he yelled out, "Hey, no hard feelings." Tabler's accomplice, Army Private Timothy Payne, received a life sentence for his role in killing the strip club manager and his friend. Now 37, he will become eligible for parole in 2044. On death row, Tabler continued to make threats even though investigators caught him making the cell phone calls, and after police arrested his mother for buying minutes for the phone, Tabler persuaded a Methodist prison chaplain to smuggle letters out of the prison that threatened Whitmire. Tabler, now age 45, awaits his date with the executioner, set to die by lethal injection on Thursday, February 13, 2025.